It's hard enough to make one successful movie, let alone 3. So it's no surprise that many would-be trilogies never see that third installment. Here are some that died on the vine. The first Spider-Man sent the comic book movie renaissance into overdrive in 2002, when it became the first film to earn more than $100 million in a single weekend. Spider-Man 2 continued the trend, and while 2007 Spider-Man 3 ended the first series with a creative whimper, the Sam Raimi-Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films still earned more than $2.5 billion worldwide. Sony rebooted the series in 2012, this time with Andrew Garfield in the tights and Mark Webb in the director's chair for The Amazing Spider-Man. The box office results were solid and the reviews were strong. So before a sequel was released, Sony announced a third and fourth film, as well as spin-offs Sinister Six and Venom, effectively launching a Spidey cinematic universe. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 arrived in 2014, but despite earning $708 million worldwide on a $200 million budget, the horrible reviews meant Spidey was headed in the wrong direction.
He's a menace to the entire city! I want that wall-crawling arachnid prosecuted! I want him strung up by his web!
Luckily, Disney swooped in and brought the web spinner, now played by Tom Holland, back to his record-breaking ways in the MCU, while Sony scored a huge hit with Venom and won an Oscar with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And while The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was squished, Garfield's version of the character got a conclusion of sorts to his story in 2021's MCU-set multiverse adventure, Spider-Man No Way Home. Despite their popularity, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles haven't had box office staying power.
But I can get it back! I can get it back!
Raphael, let it go.
The first film trilogy started strong when 1990's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles earned $202 million worldwide on a $13.5 million budget. However, 1991's TMNT 2, The Secret of the Ooze, dropped 62% to $78 million worldwide, while the third film took a shellacking at the box office in 1993, earning just $42 million on a $21 million budget. As a result, America's favorite talking, karate-chopping terrapins went on a 21-year hiatus from live-action big-screen adventures. But following the enormous success of the Transformers films, Paramount saw the possibility of big bucks in movies based on other characters from super popular 80s toy lines and TV shows, and decided to give the reptiles another chance. Released in 2014, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles earned $485 million worldwide on a $125 million budget. Paramount was feeling confident, so they upped the budget for 2016's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows to $135 million. But this time, the film saw a 50% drop that made this over-budgeted follow-up a box office bomb.
We're turtles, whether you like it or not.
Paramount wasn't going to make the same mistake New Line Cinema did with the first series, so they pulled the plug on the third film. In late 2016, producer Andrew Form told Collider, "I don't think there's Turtles 3, but I wouldn't say there's never going to be another Turtles movie." And he was right. Going back to the franchise's animated screen roots, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem arrived in 2023 to solid box office and critical acclaim. Independence Day was one of the seminal summer movies of the 1990s. It blew up the box office in the summer of 1996, becoming the highest-grossing movie of the year. When a movie makes that much money, especially on a modest $75 million budget, it usually means sequels. Lots of them. But a funny thing happened on the way to outer space. Summer after summer, big movies came and went, but an Independence Day sequel never materialized.
Risk turning one dangerous falling object into many.
But 2015 was the year of nostalgia, as its two biggest blockbusters were long-awaited sequels to franchises from the past, Star Wars: The Force Awakens and Jurassic World. Based on the success of those films, Fox figured that Independence Day Resurgence would be the next sequel to rule the summer.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
Boy, were they wrong. There were a few problems. One, Resurgence didn't feature original star Will Smith, who opted not to return and had his character killed off. Second, this film wasn't just bad, it was really weird. Consequently, Independence Day Resurgence seriously underwhelmed with $384 million worldwide on a $165 million budget. An alarming 53% drop that's even more startling considering the 20-year difference in ticket price inflation. Clearly, moviegoers were over the series. And given that the Disney-Fox merger shook up all of Fox's slate, there's no way Independence Day 3 will ever happen. Before 1985's mega hit Back to the Future, director Robert Zemeckis took the romantic comedy action-adventure hybrid nobody wanted and turned it into a major hit.
It's the best time I've ever had.
Never been anybody's best time before.
Romancing the Stone had a modest $10 million budget, but made $75 million domestically and $115 million worldwide. The spring 1984 release wasn't just Fox's biggest hit of the year, it was their only hit. So naturally, they wanted to rush a sequel. The only problem? Stars Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner didn't want to do it. But Fox exercised its sequel option and threatened to sue Turner for $25 million if she backed out. The troubled production didn't improve anyone's mood either. The Jewel of the Nile miraculously made it to theaters 19 months after Stone, but only made $68 million worldwide. A proposed third film, The Crimson Eagle, wasn't a high priority for anyone at the time, though Douglas did drop out of 1997's U-571 a decade later to return for a sequel that never happened. In 2008, a new sequel, Chasing the Monsoon, was announced, with Douglas's wife Catherine Zeta-Jones replacing Turner. That project quickly became a remake instead, potentially starring Gerard Butler and Katherine Heigl. But in 2011, it was shelved for a TV series. With no news since, it's safe to say this romance is dead. Saturday Night Live alum Rob Schneider had a solid career in Hollywood as Adam Sandler's friend for nearly 10 years, when he graduated to above-the-title status with Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo.
I don't have a set price or anything, but I have been getting $10.
Its 22% tomato meter score didn't scream Citizen Kane, but it made more money than anyone expected, earning $92 million worldwide on an $18 million budget. While Schneider continued to play scene-stealing backup roles for his A-list superstar friend, he got to be the center of attention in 2001's The Animal and 2002's The Hot Chick. It wasn't until 2005 that Schneider returned to his signature role for Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo. But after 6 years, the audience had moved on. Besides its atrocious 9% tomato meter score, Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo earned a thin profit at best. Still, with moviegoers' nostalgia for characters they grew up loving, might we see Deuce Bigalow Saves Christmas, Goes to Camp, versus Kong? Not with Rob Schneider. In 2008, Schneider told Movies.ie, "I'd love to do a third Bigalow movie. The only reason why I did the second one is because everyone was asking for it, but it notably failed." But by 2013, Schneider had changed his tune, telling the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, "You're not gonna see another Deuce Bigalow out of me. A Gigolo without Schneider is no Bigalow." There are actually two Adam Sandlers. One is the gifted actor of Punch Drunk Love and Uncut Gems. The other is, well, Adam Sandler. Alas, most of Sandler's $5.5 billion in worldwide grosses have come from his comedies, which is why there are so many. Take the Grown Up series, Sandler's Hanging Out with His Friends franchise, co-starring Kevin James, Chris Rock, David Spade, Rob Schneider, and Salma Hayek as Sandler's wife. Grown Ups earned $272 million worldwide in 2010, and Grown Ups 2 made $247 million in 2013, making it Sandler's highest-grossing franchise besides Hotel Transylvania. Even with that much talent ballooning the budgets up to $70 to $80 million, such profits usually spell sequels, yet we've gotten none.
We're irrelevant. We're losers. We're old.
And given that Sandler is busy making Netflix films and critically acclaimed movies, we think he may finally be too grown up for Grown Ups 3. Hollywood has had a love affair with pre-existing properties for decades. But in 1991, a big screen adaptation of The Addams Family, based on the Charles Addams comic strip and the 1960s TV show, seemed altogether ooky.
That's odd.
What's odd, dear?
Didn't know Cousin Imar wore turtleneck sweaters.
Powered by the iconic main musical theme and pitch-perfect casting, Angelica Houston as Morticia, Raul Julia as Gomez, Christopher Lloyd as Uncle Fester, and Christina Ricci as Wednesday, The Addams Family earned a staggering $191 million worldwide on a $30 million budget.
I would die for her. I would kill for her. Either way, what bliss.
A sequel was inevitable. And while 1993's Addams Family Values has been candy-coated by the sweet nectar of nostalgia, there's no denying that it bombed hard. With $46 million worldwide on a $47 million budget, Addams Family Values killed the franchise, further cemented by Julia's tragic death less than a year later. Yet in 1998, Warner Brothers attempted a strange spiritual follow-up in Addams Family Reunion, which tried to capitalize on the previous film's goodwill with a murky attempt at continuity, albeit a different cast. The film was meant to launch a new Addams Family TV show, but was such a creative catastrophe that the studio released it straight to video and promptly buried it. It would be more than 20 years before the Addams Family would be rebooted as an animated film in 2019.
Don't cut your eyes on my crew unless you're ready to dance.
Given the success of that film and its 2021 sequel, and especially the massive success of Netflix's spin-off series Wednesday, we can confidently say a true Addams Family 3 is dead. Despite winning an Oscar for Oppenheimer, Robert Downey Jr. seemed unsatisfied with supporting parts in prestige pictures and is returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But we're worried about him playing Victor Von Doom, especially with the Doctor Doom theory that explains how Downey's casting is just Marvel's backdoor attempt to bring back Iron Man. If Downey wants to return to a franchise, especially after the massive failure of would-be blockbuster Dolittle, might we suggest the other eccentric genius in his oeuvre, Sherlock Holmes? The 2009 original earned $498 million worldwide on a $90 million budget, despite facing stiff holiday season competition against a little movie called Avatar. The 2011 sequel Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows fared even better, with $535 million worldwide on a $125 million budget. Sherlock Holmes 3 seemed elementary, yet nothing has happened in more than a decade. When a third film's would-be director, Dexter Fletcher, was asked by Cinema Blend in 2023 if any progress has been made, he said no, adding that the script was brilliant, but blaming COVID-19 and Downey's busy schedule for the delay. In June 2024, Downey's wife and producing partner Susan Downey told Screen Rant that Sherlock Holmes 3 was, quote, still very much alive in our hearts. Which is Hollywood producer speak for, it ain't happening anytime soon. Given Downey Jr.'s return to the MCU was announced 1 month later, we suspect this case is closed.
Conclusion inevitable.
Shazam earned a respectable $363 million worldwide on a shockingly modest $85 million budget, but it got obliterated in its fourth weekend by a little pick called Avengers Endgame, which remains the biggest opening weekend record holder of all time.
I applaud your choices today. Gold shoes, gold belt, white cake. It shouldn't work, but hot damn it does!
Still, that kind of profit is hard to sneeze at, so a sequel seemed forthcoming faster than you can say Shazam. But then a pretty big rock got in the way. Make that The Rock. Dwayne Johnson believed Black Adam, the D-list character he wanted to play for more than a decade, should be the new centerpiece of the DC Extended Universe, as evidenced by statements like this one.
The hierarchy of power in the DC Universe is about to change.
He wasn't just talking about the movies. Black Adam was technically in Shazam's rogues gallery, but Johnson wanted his anti-hero to battle DC's biggest babyface, Superman. According to Johnson, this superpowered showdown wound up getting scrapped due to business, which is an ego-preserving way of saying Black Adam bombed with $390 million worldwide on a $200 million budget.
Beth Adam, we know who you are and what you are capable of. There's no place for you in the world of man.
Ironically, Black Adam out-earned Shazam, but at more than twice the price, it was a financial failure. Shazam: Fury of the Gods was the innocent victim in all this, as the 2023 film barely earned back its budget. With James Gunn rebooting the entire DC cinematic slate, we can all but guarantee there won't be a Shazam 3. How many franchises has Martin Scorsese made in his 50-plus year career? Answer: none. Yes, Scorsese directed 1986's The Color of Money, a sequel to Robert Rossum's 1961 film The Hustler, but as far as sequels to his own work, zero. Zilch. Nada. That could have changed with 2006's The Departed, which remains Scorsese's biggest domestic hit, his third biggest worldwide hit, and his only film to win Oscars for Best Picture and Best Director. If Warner Brothers had its way, it also would have been his only movie to get a sequel, as the studio was eager for one. While there's no official word on how many sequels Warner Brothers wanted, The Departed is a Beantown-based remake of the Hong Kong-set Infernal Affairs trilogy, so 3 films sounds reasonable. Andy Lau appeared in both Infernal Affairs sequels, but his counterpart in Scorsese's crime epic, Matt Damon's Colin Sullivan, gets killed, which the studio wasn't happy about. Scorsese rejected a sequel idea from screenwriter William Monahan, while Mark Wahlberg and Monahan also pitched a sequel for Wahlberg's character, the sole survivor of The Departed.
How's your mother?
She's on her way out.
You all are. Act accordingly.
Despite featuring Wahlberg's return to his Oscar-nominated role, Warner Brothers rejected the project because Monahan didn't have a plot nailed down. After nearly 20 years of attempts as dead as the main characters, it sounds like any hope for a franchise is, well, dearly departed.